everyone, and thanks for joining us for the Superintendent's Report. I'm Carol Birdsong, and joining me to discuss Williamson County Schools is our Superintendent, Jason Golden. And as we record this, it is a little bit later than normal. This is a Wednesday. We had a board meeting on Tuesday because of the Martin Luther King holiday. And so we're going to talk about board activity. We are going to talk about all sorts of other things because it's been a minute since we've been here, because I think the last time we recorded this program it was maybe in November. So we have a lot to cover. So we're going to start with weather because we've had our fair share of it, and I hear it may not be over. So.
Well, thank you for that. And the weather has hit us twice.
Yes.
And I actually thought of some of our new community members who've come in from other parts of the country thinking that this is normal for us. We've had more snows this year than typical.
Right.
But we planned for it, right? We have in our calendar, this year's calendar, 10 what we call inclement weather days, the state calls stockpile days, where we go to school just a few minutes extra over the course of a year to address this possibility. And Tennessee generally does not have the volume of equipment that you might see in the Northeast or the Pacific Northwest. We don't have a lot of snow plows, and when I say we, I'm talking about the whole community, not Williamson County Schools.
Right. We don't have snow plow. Let's be clear, because we did get that question about clearing roads, and we don't do that.
We might have a couple of bobcats.
Okay.
That's
and that's really for our parking lots.
Well, not even our parking lots, really. So we actually use contractors to clean our parking lots and scrape. And those companies, of course, have other clients as well. But it's slow because of the volume of snow compared to the amount of equipment we have. So it's not what folks expect in some other parts of the country. But it is a little unusual this year. We have 10 days built in. As we sit today on Wednesday, I almost said Tuesday, we've used 3 of our 10 stockpiled days. Occasionally in the past we have used a day or two for pretty severe health issues, the flu in years past, if staffing gets to the point where we can't handle that. Some of our neighbors have actually used some of those days this year for COVID related issues. The state structure is such that you can't close a whole school system and go remote due to COVID. We can make a request of the commissioner based on particular schools that might have a staffing issue or a student issue. We haven't quite hit that point yet this year, but that's still in our toolbox if there's a need to switch to remote instruction based on COVID. But for inclement weather, if it gets too bad, either for health issues or weather, we have those stockpile days to use. Okay. And Carol, if I may, I want to mention one other thing.
Go ahead.
We talked about snow, and that came in, Saturday night, Sunday.
We've actually been fortunate with the timing.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I think about Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Every year, I'll see something that educates me just a little bit more on Martin Luther King and the work he did. And frankly, being stuck at home that morning opened the door for me to start exploring on the internet some additional stories. I actually looked through an article about his education history, and I knew he went to Morehouse College, but I learned a little bit more about what he did after that, how he got his doctorate at the seminary he went to Boston University. So there are opportunities even on those snow days to educate yourself a little bit better.
Very good, very good. And yes, and his work to serve really was why we also, one of the reasons why we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. But really quick, back to weather though.
Carol's on weather.
I'm on weather. So we need to make sure you're informed. We use our notification system to keep you informed. However, if you're a community member and you're curious, I encourage you to go to the App Store, download our mobile app, and then you will be able to follow us because we will communicate that to the greater Williamson County community through the mobile app and local news media as well.
In our app title, I've downloaded it a couple of years ago. I'm trying to remember the exact title. Is it WCS or Williamson County Schools?
WCS EDU.
And on that app, we have those notices, but we also have every school event listed on there.
Yes.
So I actually subscribe to all our schools. You can actually select individual schools on our app. on a day like Martin Luther King Jr. Day, every school have an entry that they're closed for that day. You can scroll down and find things like wrestling tournaments, basketball, theater productions, all those events you can find based on the particular school that you want to follow.
And since you brought that up, we encourage folks to follow us on the app. Find your favorite schools. If you are an alum of Independence, or you live in the Independence zone, or you're not really connected to the schools, but you love Independence, or Summit, or Franklin, or Centennial, if you follow that particular school, then go to a ball game or go to a theater production. Support our schools. Boy, the talent that we have in this school district it's phenomenal to see our students, and we'll talk about that in just a minute as well. But I'm going to transition to volunteer opportunities. So not only do we want you to be informed, but we want you to be involved in our schools. And there are multiple ways to make that happen. We recorded or actually did a live broadcast with Tom Lawrence earlier this morning on WAKM radio. And we were talking about, I shared with him that there's just so much misinformation on social media, and how I'd read a post about where, we aren't allowing any volunteers in the school. That is so wrong. We need volunteers in our schools. So talk about some of those opportunities.
Well, there was a time, as we've been going through COVID issues over the last 2 years, where we did strictly limit visitor access, especially before that time when vaccines became available. For months now, we have been encouraging volunteers to come. Our PTOs know that. PTOs have been coming in and serving. I want to thank those PTO parents who come in and do that work. Some of our PTO members are so deeply involved in our schools that you can't tell the difference between them and staff members.
Right.
And so we do encourage volunteers. We have some challenges with staffing, and that's a universal issue locally and even nationally. It's a constant refrain if you follow media, whether it's television, radio, media on the internet. That's a challenge right now. We are short on special education teachers, assistants, cafeteria, bus drivers. Some of those are traditional challenges, and others it's really been exacerbated by COVID. And so we love volunteers coming in. Help out, that allows somebody else who's got some expertise to go and help in other areas. Come help in the cafeteria. We've actually had some board members doing that. I know that Nancy Garrett.
Rick Wimberly, we're going to leave somebody out.
That's a good point.
That was bad. We should not have done that. We're leaving somebody out.
But our board members are pitching in, and it really does you good. And I say this from a personal experience. One of the commitments we made as our senior staff team was to go and actually spend a day, or we actually committed to multiple days, substituting and filling in, because we're short on substitute teachers. And every time you do that, you're built up somehow.
You're built up, but you also realize, oh my goodness, the work that these teachers are doing in the classroom. Quick story, and it's really, I'm not even telling a story, but Corey Mason in our department went out to an elementary school. He has an elementary child at home, but went to a different elementary school, and they put him in a classroom, and there were other assistants in there as well, but he came back with a different appreciation for everything that goes on, because they had him there. He was there all day long. That is hard. I hope Corey doesn't mind me using his story.
The work teachers do, the work our teachers' assistants do, it is hard work and it is professional work. So often everyone seems to think, well, I know what happens in a school because I was a student and I have that experience. Students don't see the detail, the hard work that teachers do, the collaboration that they do where they work together in teams to plan so much. One of the reasons we succeed, maybe the key reason we succeed, is that effort in teachers in their professional work.
That's right. And speaking of that, last night at the school board meeting, we began the process to give employees a mid-year raise. I cannot recall in my couple of decades here that has ever happened. Talk about how it came to be and where we are in that process.
Well, the market is changing fast in our community, and I'm talking about jobs, and we alluded to that earlier. And traditionally, governments do not change very quickly in response to market conditions. Some of you may have recognized that certain stores either didn't have product or they changed their hours because they couldn't staff, those kinds of things. Schools don't close because we don't have staff. We're open. And the market's affected us, and it's some of those jobs. The cost of living, all those kinds of things, it's changed a lot. The available staff has changed a lot quickly. Our budget process takes a year plus to prepare for, in part because the county commission makes tax decisions. And so traditionally we don't make a change in mid-year because we don't have the funding and because the planning that's required for it. But this year, County Mayor Rogers Anderson and I and many other leaders have been talking about how difficult it has been to hire. And so he worked within his budget and encouraged us to work within ours to determine what could we do in mid-year to address those quickly changing market conditions. And our market is anywhere from competition from businesses for our hourly folks to school systems trying to take employees because there aren't enough to go around.
I mean, let's put it out there. It happens.
Yeah, and so what we proposed to our board last night and they approved was $1 an hour pay raise for all our hourly staff members and a 3% pay raise for our teachers so that we can let them know that we thank you for your work and we know that we need to be competitive and be as responsive as we can to the market conditions. Under ordinary circumstances, we might not have been able to afford that because we don't just bump up taxes. Our board members never have that capacity. It's within the county commission. But what has enabled us to do it this year is the sales tax revenues so far this year have been a little higher than our budget projections. People have been spending more. And so we were able to share that with the professionals who ought to get that share. So I want to thank the members of the community for what you're doing, buying locally. Those things that people talk about that it's hard to really put your finger on really do make a difference.
It does make a difference.
And so our board approved that for our staff members. Next month it goes to the county commission along with the county mayor's proposal, which his announcement to the county budget committee is very similar to ours, so that we can react to market conditions a little more quickly than a government traditionally does.
Now, already this year, we've increased special ed teacher assistant pay.
Yes,
correct?
that's right.
And so this will be another $1 on top of that hourly wage.
So we were about 80 special education teachers assistant positions short. We have close to 800, and so we were, about 90% staffing. For every individual teacher's assistant who's missing, there's a specific need we can identify. So earlier this year, knowing that we were understaffed, we took the money within that budget line and we were able to bump up the teacher's assistant starting pay to $15 an hour within that budget item. Teacher's assistants, everyone is included in this proposal for the extra $1 an hour.
Okay, so if you're just going to say it, make sure we've got it right. If you're hourly, you're getting a $1 per hour raise. If you're salary, it's 3%.
That's correct, and it still needs to be approved by the county commission.
Okay.
And we're sitting here in mid-January. It's going to be mid-February for the county commission to make that final decision. And so if this passes, February 28th will be the first pay period that reflects that, but our plan is to make it retroactive to the pay period that starts at the end of January.
Okay. We have jobs available.
Jobs available. We'd love to have you. Volunteers and jobs. If you're looking to get back into the job market after having been out, we'd love to have you. It's
just
go
to our website, wcs.edu. You'll see the employment tab up there. Click on there. You'll see job listings and various other things. And it's you've said this. It's an unusual time. We have teacher openings. We have a variety of different openings across the county.
Our teacher staffing is at 98%, and if you're a business at this stage, you're thinking that's pretty good. And statistically it is, but every teacher position that's missing are those students who we need to find another way to serve.
That's right. That's right. So apply. We'd love to have you join our team, especially those folks who are new to Williamson County or thinking, well, maybe I'm not quite ready. We encourage you to be ready.
Have we hit this drum enough? We'd love to have you.
That's right. Oh, shoot. Okay, so also last night, I'm trying to take care of the business, so we're going to do some little celebrating in a minute. New law that parents are going to want to know about that we discussed last night at the board meeting, and the board took action regarding out-of-zone request. If you've lived in Williamson County, it's not like it used to be.
Well, that's right. So for years, we have allowed students to attend school out of zone, provide your own transportation based on a structure that we set up. And we have somewhere around 2,200 of our 42,000 students who actually attend an out-of-zone school. So annually, we set numbers that we know that we have capacity for at each school for students to attend out-of-zone. Our tradition has been, and it's in board policy, that it's a first-come, first-served structure. The board votes to approve the out-of-zone schools for the coming year. Then individuals can make those requests, and it's first-come, first-served based on those numbers. The state created a new law, which actually changes our structure of first come, first serve to a lottery if those numbers exceed the total available seats we have. Now, our planning is based on growth. We're a high growth area. So when we set aside available seats, we have to project out what's going to happen over the next few years about students matriculating from elementary to middle to high. And so we have posted that on our website. But another change is, traditionally, folks used to watch that board meeting at night and know that,
fill it out.
Just immediately it's coming, whether it's midnight or 8 a.m. that next morning. This time, under the new law, we have to give a 14 days notice before we open that window. February 1st is when that comes. It's not first come, first serve, but we do encourage you to get those in as soon as you can once that window opens on February 1st. Our board had a pretty long discussion, both at our work session and our board meeting, that this new state structure isn't completely in line with all the detail that our board policies worked out over the years. We are going to have some discussions about that. Does our policy need to change based on the new state structure? And it's possible we'll have some changes on that policy. So we do want to make sure that our families stay informed on that. If there's any significant changes, we're going to make sure that we send some kind of message out, whether by text or otherwise. If you're not getting those texts and you are watching this, we encourage you to contact your principals. The text structure that we've been doing for about a year, Carol, if I'm not mistaken, a little over a year, is really a good, efficient way to communicate with our families.
Well, when we did our communication survey, that was one thing that came back. Folks really like the text messaging. So we're glad that we are able to do that. I do want to clarify one thing. This is for Williamson County residents only. You cannot attend Williamson County schools if you live in a different county unless you're an employee here and you pay a tuition.
Well, that's right. We don't have, because we're so fast growing, we don't have the capacity to open the county school systems to those who live outside the county, and so we don't. There are a few in the state of Tennessee that do because they're looking for additional. We just don't have the capacity for that.
Okay. COVID numbers are increasing as we've seen over break, and then as we return back to school, we're modeling, of course, what's going on in our community.
Well, we do reflect the community. The numbers really jumped even while we were out, and we were concerned, and it did happen, that it affects us the moment we open school. We continue to monitor that on a daily basis. I can't emphasize enough that threshold point that we've said for years, but culturally, we've not all honored, which is if you're sick, stay home. Honor that as much as you can. Take care of yourself. As a student, you're going to be fine. Our teachers will take care of you and help you make up that work. It's not good for you. It's not good for others if you're out sick. We also have an illness protocol, actually officially illness guidelines is what we call it, on our COVID website. So you can go to our website, get the detail of that. If you've been exposed, we share the detail of the CDC and the state health department's advice on being out based on exposure. So all that detail is in there. And I know that we have a lot of community members who are still very concerned, and we're concerned too. And we're doing what we can as a school system within the parameters that we've been given by the state and our board to do what we can to keep students safe. But everyone needs to honor that if they would. If you're feeling sick, stay home. We'll find ways to take care of you.
You touched on this earlier, but circling back to budget, our budget process for the next school year is underway. And I know that you're having meetings with assistant superintendents and department heads and others. That's the process that we go through. Those requests have already been sent out to principals. Principals have provided their feedback. Give us a timeline of how the budget process works, because it's a little bit different this year.
I'm going to give a back schedule with the end starting. The commission is scheduled to vote on our budget and their budget on June 28th. One of the auditors actually asked them to move that date up this year.
It's always been in July.
It's always been in July, and so the idea is that they may actually vote on the budget just before the fiscal year starts, and we're on a July 1st fiscal year. So June 28th, our board is scheduled to vote on our budget in March. In between March and June, we have multiple meetings with county commission committees. With the budget committee, with the education committee, with joint committees. We talk about personnel, we talk about the additional pieces of the budget, products, growth, all that detail. I can't even count off the top of my head how many meetings we have with the school board and with the county commission budget committees. So we are working now with our individual departments after having previously gotten input from our principals about their needs. And this week is really where we're starting to hit this in earnest with our leadership team in mid-January to prepare for the March proposal to our school board.
Okay. All right, very good. So everybody will be watching that.
And if I may,
go ahead.
I'm going to add a couple things. There are some main buckets for funding for schools. One is property tax, which is local, and it's ultimately decided by our county commission. Second is sales tax, some elements that go to the county from the sales tax revenue that the state collects, some from the state. The third big bucket is what we call BEP, which is the state funding, which actually has been discussed at the state level. They're discussing the possibility of a new model. For us, it's really about that bottom line revenue. How much do we receive related to that? Generally speaking, our county commission funds about 2/3 of our total per pupil expenditures. For a long time, our county commission has stepped up and gone beyond that state minimum. One of the reasons we succeed, one of the reasons that we have this reputation that was earned with student performance is because our county commission made a commitment to that and continues to do so.
They are our funding body, and we receive substantially less than other counties.
We are slightly, the last numbers I saw, we are actually slightly below the state average on per pupil expenditures. And 85 to 90% of our budget is people, because that's the business we're in. We're in direct services to people. And those who have had their own businesses, they've experienced something similar, even in products that they sell. Most any business, people is going to be the value, because that is the value.
And I want to clarify what I just said. We receive less from the state, and our county commission steps up and funds us. And then, quite frankly, our booster clubs and parent organizations also provide a substantial amount of money back to our schools.
The current state structure actually provides less to Williamson County and some others that are deemed to have the capacity to generate that themselves.
Very good. All right, we are going to wrap this up with some celebrations. Last week we went out and we celebrated our Teachers of the Year and our Employees of the Year district-wide. And so we want to give a shout out to those folks. It's always so fun to prize patrol.
Carol, can I interrupt you before your celebrations and mention one very serious issue?
Okay.
We have had some discussions about curriculum and library books.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
And I want everyone to know that when someone is concerned about a particular piece of curriculum or a particular library book, there's nothing new under the sun in that environment. These are issues that communities have dealt with in our country over the course of generations. And we have a policy in place that's based on the national expectations from the Supreme Court related to the First Amendment related to that. If someone has a concern about a particular book and believes it's not appropriate in our library, our structure is our librarians are the threshold decision makers on that based on their professional experience. And if a family or if an individual parent or if a citizen is unhappy with that, they can submit a request for reconsideration of that. Over the past months, we have been working through that process with some of our elementary English language arts curriculum. And as we sit here today, the decision is going to be shared by the committee that's reviewing that next week.
Okay.
And they have actually let those individuals who made that request know that on January 25th they'll be sharing their decision with them.
With those
individuals who complain.
Okay.
But if anybody out there has that concern, please know we're going to make sure that we have a process in place to balance that need to honor our Constitution and the First Amendment and the nature of voluntary inquiry for students in a library with what's appropriate for a student.
Okay, and that is through curriculum. What folks who watched the school board meeting back in November may recall is there were some folks who were concerned about some library books. I know that you directly reached out to those folks, or the principal of a building did, because that follows our board policy, and nobody has filed an official complaint at this time.
Our board policy for reconsideration addresses library books and curriculum and its instructional materials, and there's references to both librarians and teachers in that policy. And we have not had any requests for reconsideration submitted in the library books in recent times. If someone wants to submit one, please do. We'll go through that review process. I've sat in years past on some committees that review that. For me, as a participant in the committee, it's been a number of years. But that process works. Someone who wants something removed, I got to tell you, it's never going to be at the speed they want, right? Because common sense tells you that when someone wants it removed, they want it removed.
Yeah.
But we have a process in place that's designed to do right by all in the environment where we are.
And I would encourage folks who are still curious about it to go back on our website and take a look at the board work session. That was last week, I can't remember the day, but the January board work session. And Tiffany from Ravenwood and Laura from Sunset Middle did a presentation to the board. They are librarians of those schools. And very thorough and a well-done presentation. It helps probably answer a lot of questions that may be out there. Folks may find it beneficial.
About what librarians do. And why.
And how they do, yes.
All right, let's do some celebration.
Please, okay. We're going to talk about, just quickly, our Teachers of the Year and our Classified Employees of the Year. So I know you love going out on the prize patrol. We visited 6 schools last week, and it was such fun.
I project my voice when I walk in
Yes.
to announce this,
Yes.
and I'm not going to do it the way I do it
Please
as I'm
don't.
sitting here because it might blow out the microphone.
Well, and I'm going to say, though, people will be able to see it in tonight's issue of In Focus, because we are going to put all the video clips from our visit in tonight's issue. But just a shout out to, first of all, our Teachers of the Year from Edmondson Elementary School, Elena Gallus, Hillsborough School, Landon Hardison, who you substituted next to. Yes, I'm sure he was a good help to you. Okay, Fairview High School, Stephanie McGaha. In Classified, our Fairview Elementary School's Rita Binkley, been here 36 years, and she likes to say she opened Fairview Elementary School because she was in 2nd grade when it opened.
Second grade.
Second grade. Mill Creek Middle School's Holly Pring, and then Ravenwood High School's Dave Burnham. So that's like one of the best days ever to go do that.
Well, and for Teacher of the Year, we have a grade level, grade band Teacher of the Year, elementary, middle, and high, and they go on to compete at the state level.
Yes, very good. So encourage you to read In Focus tonight when it arrives in your email, and if you don't receive In Focus, you can sure sign up on our website to receive it. So as we start this second semester, last words as we wrap up this program.
We have a wonderful community. We have a wonderful community of teachers, students, and parents. And I just appreciate all the good work everyone is doing with that same goal of serving our students. I'm really proud of where we are.
It's going to be a great 2022. All right. Thank you, Superintendent Golden, and thank you for joining us for the Superintendent's Report.